Hey guys, Petko here. Today we're going to talk about the long anticipated Tank Mythic Plus tier list for Season 3. And as you guys have already known, I've been preparing for this for quite a while. It's been roughly around 6-7 weeks on a PTR, both sharing my insights on stream, on Discord, on Icy Veins forums, pretty much like everywhere. And today is the day that you guys are going to see exactly how the tier list looks like. Before we begin, I would like to add some credibility towards my work. As you guys already know, I've been doing this for the past couple years. And this season has no difference. I've been myself 4 times in a row the rank 1 team in the world with different kind of players. You can take a look from the previous seasons, except this one, which I didn't play as much. I've been 4 times the highest shaman in the world. I've been once the highest lock in the world during BFA season 1. I've also been the highest hunter in Europe during season 4 BFA. Previous season as well, if you guys take a look, the rank 1 team in Europe with my shaman. So overall, I had a broad experience with Mythic Plus. So you guys can at least trust me, and I'm not like, kind of a random guy that never played Mythic Plus and out of nowhere decides to make a tier list, But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Now before we start, I'm judging the tanks on several criteria. One of them being how tanky they are, what is their value towards the group, pretty much like party utilities, survivability, mobility, utility, also self-sustain, very, very important. Now one big disclaimer before I start. It is very important for you guys to understand this is solely my opinion. Although I speak to a lot of theory crafters about the specs that you guys are going to see on screen, it is subjective opinion. So if you do not agree with me, it is completely fine. My words are not like 1000% true. If you however have any arguments, please leave them below the video, and I will take a look and try to prove you guys a point, or just in general listen to your feedback. My goal is to produce the most accurate tier list there is for Mythic Plus, and spread awareness, not just like some kind of a random BS about classes. I just want to give you guys my insights. This is the tier list in the current state of the game, which is the 18th of February. Now this could potentially change in the future if Blizzard decides to put a hotfix out of nowhere. It could affect some tanks, or it could not affect anything, right? Anything can happen. If you guys want to keep up with the most up-to-date changes, I would recommend you check our tier list on Icy Veins website. Links down below in case there's something new. But if there's nothing new, this is the video for you. And one small disclaimer I would like to say about tanks. Every single tank currently in 9.2 are looking better than ever. Honestly, tank balance has been extremely well rounded for the past 2 seasons. Likely one of the best we had ever. Both from the how fun they are to play to how strong they are. Especially in this season, tanks feel a lot more, in a way, tanky. So they kite less, they have way more self-sustain, and generally require a lot less babysitting, aka attention from the hitter. So that's pretty good. But honestly, as any MMORPG, there's always meta. And on the bottom of the meta for tanks right now is Protection Warrior. Currently on a C tier, the only tank on a C tier, honestly. I think the general opinion about Prot Warrior is like they currently are in the best state since like the release of the expansion. Although other tanks are much stronger than them, they still provide quite good group utility. Battle Shot is immensely strong if you pair that with like full physical comp, for example. Another example could be Rallying Cry, very strong defensive utility that could prevent you from pretty much dying. Spell Reflection can help you a lot in some dungeons. For example, last boss in Theater of Pain, you can Spell Reflect that boss, and it can speed up some bosses. Intervene as well could be pretty useful. Genuinely, with a new tier set that you're gonna get from 9.2, your damage output is gonna be a lot more like spiky, especially with the avatar up. Both AoE, both ST, so yeah, generally pretty good. Now one thing that I want to mention is your damage intake from magical damage is very weak. If some casts go on you, you're gonna likely flop, right? Unless, obviously, you have a Spell Reflect up, which again, Spell Reflect has a cooldown. I believe it's 25 seconds cooldown, roughly. So yeah, overall, you're still pretty good compared to what you were last season, but not good enough to compete with any other tank. However, if you're a casual player, doesn't matter. You can play whatever you want, alright? Next on the tier list is a bit of a controversial pick, but I am placing Blood Death Knight on the B tier list. Now, why am I placing a Blood Death Knight here is because several reasons. First of all, your damage output is not as strong as other tanks placed above you. Your self-sustain is one of the best. Honestly, your HPS is absolutely insane. You're very tanky, you can stay inside Mythic for quite a while. However, your general Mythic plus utility is not as good as the tanks placed above you. Now again, things like anti-magic zone can be pretty useful in some occasions. Dead grip, which is the single threat grip, can be also useful. Mass grip is also pretty useful in a face of Gorfin grasp. Then you have a CR from a raised ally. Generally, you can fit your utility towards like specific scenarios, but it's not as strong as, for example, let's say Avengers Dh Mass Silence, for example, or Brewmaster Disease Spell plus like Ring of Peace or Mass Stun, or let's just say Guardian Druid utility to CR and just play like 30 mobs at the same time with his incarnate, for example, right? And I can mention obviously a lot more, but that's kind of the general idea of why do I don't think that Blood Dh is going to be strong. Again, your single target is like not that bad. I would say average though. It's kind of similar to like Prot Warrior right now. Damage wise, like in general, you're similar to Prot Warrior, maybe slightly better. You're a lot more tanky though. Definitely a lot more tanky, and magic damage intake is a lot less hurting you than, for example, Prot Warrior. So that's why you're much better than Warrior, but not good enough to be placed anywhere higher. Avengers Dh. Now, Avengers Dh is a very interesting tank. So here's my opinion. I feel like you got amazing tier set, right? Likely one of the best for all tanks. So your damage profile is going to be extremely well rounded, especially for AoE. Consistent AoE damage profile. You're going to hold aggro like a king. Your utility is amazing. Sigil Silence, Sigil's Misery. You can also play Sigil of Chains if you want to, for the kind of a semi-mass grip. You also provide Chaos Brand to the whole party, especially if you play with a full magical team. That extra 5% magical damage on top can be a deciding factor of you timing the key and you, for example, failing the key. You're very mobile, one of the most mobile tanks, unlike, for example, Blood Death Knight, which is pretty much a wheelchair. Except the fact that you have a Death Advance as a Blood Death Knight, and also you can spec the Rat Walk for extra movement speed, but you lose, like, I believe, the Mass Slow, which again could be very impactful. Genuinely, you feel a bit squishy outside of meta. Also, although you do have spikes up most of the time, but you're a lot less tanky than Blood Death Knight for sure. However, your damage and utility, in my opinion, is a lot better than Blood Death Knight, and that's why you're placed slightly above them. Still B tier though, not enough to break the A tier, which again, in my opinion, are the top 3 tanks, gold tanks right now this season. And I do believe on the lower end keys, Vengeance could be even the best tank. Legit, on like sub 15 keys, 16 keys, why not? But the moment that the higher the key goes, the less viable they become, because they have to kite more often, which means like you lose more damage throughout the whole party, right? Genuinely, I expect this tank to be picked up for speedruns like MDI style, possibly, but also the fact that you have a cheat dead could also be a very good factor why you should go for the Vengeance Dh if you want to have a safe tank, right? A last resort cheat dead could be immense for somebody that is new to tank, right? That can prevent you to die. Also, your magical damage durability is a lot stronger than Prot Warrior, for example. Like any magic cast on you is like, it's like nothing, almost nothing hits you. So yeah, very good tank, very mobile, amazing pick. All right, next on the list is Guardian Druid, one of the tanks that I placed on an A tier list. Now, in my opinion, Guardian is on a breach between A and B tier, but there's something about Guardian that I absolutely love. That is the style of simplicity of the spec. Now, pretty much, once you have a big cooldown, which is pretty much Incarnation, you can pull everything. Literally everything that you see in front of you, and you can tank it like a champ. Your damage, like AoE damage, is like one of the highest among any tank, pretty much. Like, if not the highest burst AoE damage. Obviously, that comes from your tier set, especially the 4-piece tier set that provides so much damage. So that's one of the reasons why Guardian is so insane. It's gonna be probably one of the most played tanks in the current meta. Not the strongest, but the most played tank because of the simplicity, so low barrier of entry, unlike Prot Paladin, for example. I expect this to be picked up for MDI as well, or even the Great Push, because it's very versatile tank. Also, your group utility is amazing. You have a Survival Instincts, which is pretty much like very strong defensive, Barskin as well, the ability to combat resurrect somebody in your party. You also have stuff like Typhoon and Vortex if you spec to it, Mass Root if you spec to it, Single Root, Cyclone if you want to. You have Soothe as well, which is pretty much like Enrage spell. Also, Stampeding Roar could be pretty useful to skip from point A to point B if you're not able to mount. See, this kind of small kind of changes can definitely make Guardian Druid one of the most viable tanks out there. Also, you're a very mobile tank. You can kite as much as you want, and that also is a massive plus, obviously Mythic plus, because sooner or later tanks have to kite. There's no dungeon where you just gotta stay in and just never go out, right? Unless obviously it's like a lower key, so you don't care as much. But on higher keys, definitely something that you should consider. At last, I would say one of the biggest disadvantages of Guardian Druid right now is their single target. Now, particularly single target, especially on boss fights, can make a big difference. Compared to something like Brewmaster, for example, or even Avengers Dh, or even Prot Paladin, your single target is not really amazing. Also, on Tyrannical bosses, you're a lot less tankier than Brewmaster and, for example, Prot Paladin on Tyrannical bosses, right? Compared to the tanks placed above you. But hopefully that clears why I am placing Guardian on A tier right now. I think for MDI and the Great Push, this definitely S plus tier. I think for MDI, hands down, I feel like you're gonna play Guardian back to back, and I think it's gonna be S plus tier. It's gonna be amazing DPS. Like you're literally like a DPS in AoE, right? So hands down. All right, next on a tier list is gonna be Brewmaster Monk. Now this is a bit of a controversial pick. Brewmonk can be considered a top tank S tier in some dungeons and can be also considered A tier in some other dungeons. Generally, you're very tanky as well, a lot more tankier than last year because of the new tier set, which is again arguably one of the most broken tier sets that any tanks have received during this season. It not only gives you more DPS, but also it increases your HPS and survivability by a lot, right? On top of this, also the mobs are gonna do 4% less damage to you, which is absolutely insane. You have an insane toolkit like Disease Dispel. You have also Mystic Touch for the melees, especially if you play full melee comp. It increases their physical damage done by 5%. Ring of Peace, Tiger Thrust, Leg Sweep. Overall, you're pretty tanky as well. You can run away with the rolls and kite the mobs, Ring of Peace. You're just like insane tank. I don't know. Your single target is also insane. Like you're just able to like dish out amazing numbers, likely one of the best numbers on a single target compared to any other tanks, right? However, here's the issue though. They require a lot more attention from healers compared to like other tanks, and that's why especially magical damage intake on the Brewmaster is one of the biggest problems for them, because Stagger is great against physical damage, but against magical damage, let's say Pulse of Atonement, those casters before you attack the shards are just melting you if you don't interrupt. So I feel like in a pre-made group, Brewmonk is definitely like top tier tank, S tier. But I would say in a full puck group, then Brew goes slightly below because you have to rely a lot on your hitter, right? You are pretty much like reliant on your hitter to sometimes just spam heal you, and it is the case, right? Obviously now this season you're gonna be a lot less reliant because you have a lot higher self-sustain due to your tier set. But genuinely, I feel like the only tank that can beat you is Prot Paladin. Speaking about Prot Paladin, right now Prot Paladin is the best tank in the current season. Now why is that? Few details. Now, first of all, DPS wise, insane. Aggro generation is one of the strongest for Prot Paladin. Your DPS is also insane, both ST and AoE, amazing tank. Also utility wise, absolutely insane utility. Immunity, the first thing, the only tank with immunity. So you have a mass silence with Avengers Shield. So permanent kicks, mass silence, interrupt as well. You have a devotion aura, you have a sack, you have a what else do you have? Freedom, which again could be pretty useful in some dungeons. Overall, the only disadvantage I could tell you right now about Protection Paladin is their lack of mobility. Except Divine Steed, which is like every 45 seconds, I believe. Which again, it's pretty much immobile if you don't have Divine Steed up, which is your horse, right? Again, one of the other reasons why I think sometimes it's a big coin flip to play Prot Paladin is because the moment you don't have a shield of righteousness up, you are likely to flop, right? So you gotta pay attention to your passive and active mitigation. As soon as you don't have a shield, you gotta run out, you know? You gotta run out. And if you don't have a horse to run out, well, how are you gonna run to the underworld very quickly? So that's why, in my opinion, it's very risky to play the tank and it requires a lot of skill. However, if you manage to execute it, you're gonna be king. At last, one of the utilities that no other tank has is the ability to off-heal, especially with a Word of Glory. One of the best off heals in the game, even though can sometimes even replace your off heals from your hitter, right? If you crit them with your Word of Glory, you can just like maximize your healing output by a lot. and saves a teammate sometimes, right? So that is something worthy to be mentioned. Their utility, in my opinion, is like the best out of any tank. Anyway, that was the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to follow us on YouTube, follow on Twitch. We talk about stuff like this on Twitch most of the time. And please let me know if I'm wrong, if I'm right, if you like the tier list, if there's something to add. I honestly try to be as, short and sweet as possible. If you guys want to see the full detailed description about each tank, you should check out the tier list below. I try to be short so I don't waste your time. But thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace out.